Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. John Kelly Profile here, and welcome. Today's video is going to be on the Golden State Killer. Is he going to get a life sentence or a death sentence? What I have to bring out is that everybody's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And Mr. DeAngelo is a suspect at this point in time and has not been proven guilty or pleaded guilty in a court of law. Recently, we've had a number of district attorneys, which I have in my report here, come forward and seek the death penalty for Mr. DeAngelo. They put it on the table. Pretty much that's what they're going to ask for. Now, I have to tell you, it's pretty hard to get a death penalty when there is no death penalty, because the governor of California has put a moratorium, a stop to the death penalty as California knows it. I know. When was the last time anybody got executed by the death penalty in California? But here's our take on the case. Here's my take on the case. We have to look at the cost of the death penalty. And over the years, I've researched this stuff. And we're looking at millions, if not billions, to put somebody to death in not only the state of California, but in any of the other states as well. And the reason for that is because the unit itself costs a lot of money to keep it secure, to keep these hardened criminals behind bars and to keep them caged. I mean, these guys are the worst of the worst. And you really have to have strong security when any of these guys breaking out. The other part of that is that, when you look at the death penalty and the millions, if not billions of dollars that have been spent over the years on appeals, it usually goes to legal expenses. And there's a lot of lawyers, a lot of attorneys out there that are going to be pretty sad to see a stop or moratorium come to the death penalty, because that's going to mean there's not going to be appeals, and that means they're not going to make a lot of money, because a lot of money's gone out in legal expenses and paid to a lot of attorneys. The pros and cons of the death penalty are pretty much focused on how much of a deterrent, besides paying out all this money, does the death penalty set or constitute? Does it create a deterrent? And I have to tell you, with sexual predators, it does not. The sexual predators, the serial killers that I've interviewed, when they are in that zone and they are stalking a victim and they are sexually motivated to have control and dominance over their victim, don't even think about the consequences or a death penalty at all. It doesn't even enter their mind. And this is a fact. They're in a trance. They're just focused. They're getting high. It's like a heroin addict on their way to pick up heroin. They're just so focused on getting high and getting off. And that's what a sexual predator, especially a serial killer, will do. He'll be in like a trance. Nothing will be in, and nothing else will be entering his mind. Only the sexual gratification he's going to get out of his conquest. So consequences don't even come in at that point in time. Where the consequences do come in are after he has killed his victim. Now, all of a sudden, he's consumed by ravenous fear. He's consumed about getting caught. He doesn't want to get caught, and he's got a body on his hands. At this point in time, the fear of getting caught and the consequences of prison or the death penalty come into effect and start to go through his mind. That's why he wants to dump or hide this body as quickly as possible, and he wants to put as many miles as he can between him and his victim. And don't forget, for all the miles he puts between him and his victim, he puts people between him and his victim. because anybody at that point in time could be a suspect. So the consequences aren't even thought about. Now, the other part of this is, what are the pros of having a death penalty? We talked about the consequences. What are the pros of having a death penalty? And I can only think of a couple. One pro, which I know for sure, is that it can be a bargaining chip that can be used when a serial predator or a killer, a multiple killer especially, has been caught. Because then they're caught and it's laid out on the table to them. We know you have more victims. We know you killed more women, especially women this is used for. Tell us where their remains are. Tell us where their bodies are. Tell us you killed them. If you admit to that, we'll take the death penalty off the table. So you can see how the death penalty can be used as a bargaining chip. And in many cases, a predator will turn around and give up bodies in order to get a stay of execution, not to be given the death penalty, but to be given life in prison and to be allowed in general population, where they get a lot of different fringe benefits. So that is a pro for having a death penalty, to use it as a bargaining chip. The other piece that I see to the death penalty, the other pro I see to having a death penalty, is that it will give the family the justice that they've been seeking for their loved one. Now, this is important too, because families should come into consideration here. I mean, don't forget, these families go to different hearings all through this legal process, and not only maybe the first trial, but a second trial, and with appeals, and they're in and out of the court system for many years to try and seek justice for their loved one. So the toll that it takes on the family, and I believe the family is due their justice. Whatever the courts come down with, whatever the jury decides, is the justice that that family deserves. So the question is, are we denying these family their justice? I mean, this is their loved one that's been murdered. If the family gets to see the justice carried out, then they're going to get a certain amount of satisfaction. But what they're not going to get is closure. By no means. There will not be any closure. You have to understand that when a family loses a loved one, especially a mother or father loses a child to a serial predator, there is a perpetual, everlasting hole in their heart. And they will cope better with it over the years. And yes, I've said this before. They'll cope with it better over the years as time goes by, especially if they have other children that they can devote their attention to. But that hole in their heart is perpetual. It'll never heal. There will never be complete closure, and that hole in their heart will continue forever. So this all needs to be taken into consideration. I would like you all to think about this. We're interested in your feedback on this. We'd like to know how you feel about the pros and the cons of the death penalty in California. Should we have a death penalty in California, or should we not have a death penalty in California? Thank you so much for tuning in. We truly appreciate your support. We can't thank you enough for your subscriptions. Please continue to subscribe. And we're always interested in your input and your feedback. So please continue to send those comments. We love to get your comments. Make it a great day and stay safe out there. Thank you.